So morning all, Richard Smala from Evolve Baits, and you join me on a very wet October morning where I'm really excited to be trying out the new lean range from Evolve Baits. Today this is all about the Terre De Somme range. Now this is made by a Dutch company called Lean, and I'm really pleased to announce we are the sole distributor of these leans in the United Kingdom. Now this lean has already got some international accolade. It's used by the Dutch, Hungarians, Italians and sometimes the French team as well. Now, most people associate leans, particularly Terre De Somme, with Bloodworm and Joker fishing. Yes, absolutely, we do use it for that on the international circuit, but hopefully today I can also show you it has massive utility on most UK waters where you're not using Bloodworm and Joker. So, Terre De Somme itself, it's a clay. So today it comes in two colours, natural, and I've also got dark. So the water behind me today is quite clear, but I want to create a cloud. So many functions of lean. I've already given the game away. One of it is to create a cloud, and you'll see when we ball it, it will create a cloud on the surface all the way to the bottom. But more importantly, when the fish attack it at the bottom, it'll also be creating a cloud at the bottom. Big fish like Bream are really happy to feed in those conditions. Sometimes the wiser, bigger roach might just sit off, so sometimes you just might need to feed or fish just outside the feed. Many other functions of lean though, it's not about just creating a cloud. So if mixed correctly, it can be used to slow down the breakup of your ground bait, or if mixed slightly differently, it can actually increase the rate at which the ground bait breaks up. Today I will be showing you a very quick method on how to mix it for most of the UK waters where you want it to break up quite quickly. Now the other thing lean does, it's soil. It has no food content whatsoever, so it can be used effectively to bulk out your ground bait content. So for example, if you wanted to normally put 4 balls of ground bait in, but you maybe want to scatter it over a bigger area, then you can add lean and you can maybe put 8 to 10 balls in but still put the same concentration of ground bait. Now, Evolve also do some heavier soils called Terre de Rivière and some grey leans. I'll be covering those on a different feature on a different day. So today then, it's all about Evolve Baits, Terre De Somme, sole UK distributor from Lean. Fantastic, cannot wait to get started. So, first thing I want to show you is how pure this Terre De Somme is. Trust me, it is the best lean I've ever seen. So, just going to pour it in and just see. It's already really quite damp itself. I'm just going to wriggle it out and just see how few lumps are in it. There we go. So look, just next to no lumps in it at all. Absolutely incredible lean. As I said, it's already quite damp in its own right. But again, I'm going to show you in a minute how to add a little bit of water to it, or if you want to mix it so it breaks up quite quickly, how to mix it straight into your ground bait. So I said I'd show you 2 different methods of mixing up the lean. Perhaps the easiest method, and the one I'm going to show you first, is mixing it in with ground bait. So I've elected to go for a 50-50 mix of Evolved Canal Black. A fantastic ground bait in its own right, but we're going to focus on the lean. So as per usual, key ingredients: drill, a little bit of water, bucket. So I've already got around about a kilo and a half of Canal Black in my ground bait bucket, and basically I'm just going to mix it up initially as per normal. That ground bait in itself smells fantastic. So, the key here, I'm fishing a venue today that's top 5 deep, so I don't know, what's that, 12-15 feet. So, I'm going to make the ground bait quite heavy anyway, but the real key here for mixing in the Terre De Somme to ground bait is to slightly over-wet the ground bait. Don't do that initially. The ground bait itself is going to absorb a little bit of the water. So just like you would on any other session, the really important thing is to do your ground bait first. When it's right, then we'll talk about adding a little bit more water to add some extra lean into it. And that lean, it's clay. It will suck up the water effectively. It'll dry out the ground bait. So we're going to over-wetten the main mix add a bit of Terre De Somme into it, and that will draw the water out of the main mix, and then it will be perfect. So I'm just going to let this settle. You can see I'm already starting to make a few balls with it, but it's not quite heavy enough. I'm just going to leave that for 5 minutes, let the water soak to it, then we'll add a little bit more water to slightly over-wetten it. So this ground bait's been settled now for a few minutes, and you can see it's probably normal consistency. If I bind it, it would just be absolutely fine. But I need it slightly over-wet. So I'm just going to add a little bit more water. You know when it's over-wet, you don't want to put too much in, but you know when it's perfect, when it just starts to sort of form little globules on the top, little balls on the top of the ground bait, and hopefully I'll be able to show you that in a second when I add a little bit more water. So just add in a little bit more water. Even with the drill, there's just a few little balls starting to form on its own now. So I'm nearly there. Don't want to make it too wet. Have a look, there's some balls just starting to form on their own, and I can really feel that's over wet. That's absolutely perfect now to add our lean. So next stage is to take our sieved Terre De Somme and basically fold it into the mix as if you were making a cake at home. As I said, this Terre De Somme, it's clay, it's going to absorb a lot of that over-wetted water in the main ground bait. So just really mixing it in. I personally like to do this bit by hand before I get back to the drill. And instantly I can feel that drying out. That Terre De Somme is just taking that water out straight away. So, see, it's still forming some nice hard balls. I might need to add a bit of water to this in a second though, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So give it a final blitz with the drill. And there we have a 50-50 mix of Terre De Somme, Canal Black, that I can put perfectly into balls. Stunning. So, if after you've done that, you find the ground bait and the lean combined mix is a little bit too dry, you obviously need to add a little bit of water. Now this bit's really important. This is a word of warning to you. If you just start pouring water straight in, you can absolutely ruin this ground bait in a heartbeat. So, this is where one of these, you get them from any garden centre, really becomes your friend. All you need to do is make sure the pressure is really high and make sure there's a really, really fine spray. Again, you can either do this by hand or you can do it by drill on a slightly lower setting. So I'm just going to do it by drill initially. So just gently spraying the water through the anatomizer into the mix. Keeping it going round. Now you can see straight away the mix might start going a bit claggy. That is already too much water. You can see that bit is just gone. So personally, this is why I like doing it by hand. You might get a few lumps in here, but you can get the consistency you want, no issue at all. So a little bit more water. So again, keep it going in, keep it turning over, just like making a cake, as if you're folding a cake. And I'm nearly there for the depth that I want. So one last blitz. And we're done. So I said there's a second way of mixing up the lean. So if you decide the lean itself is not damp enough for your liking, you can add some water to the lean before you mix it into the ground bait. The atomizer is really vital on this part though. So just got a little bit of lean. I'm deciding I want to add a little bit of water. So again, just tiny amounts. As I showed you a second ago, it can go so quickly, it can ruin it in a heartbeat. Even that tiny little bit of a spray has already, I can feel it, it's already made that lean so much heavier and it's absorbed that water straight away. You can see it, it's starting to form little globules. So just add a tiny little bit more. Now, the reason you might want to do this is to delay the breakdown of the ground bait. Obviously, the more water the soil has got, the less likely it is to break up when it hits the water. But you can see that is really, really starting to get quite heavy now. So you saw that, 2 tiny sprays of the atomizer. But what I'll do now, run that quickly back through the riddle. And now you've got the same excellent lean from Evolved, but in a much, much heavier content. Okay, so I'm just about ready to ball in. So I've made up 8 balls of pure ground bait and lean. Just going to put 8 in on their own. Just going to scatter those in probably half a metre to a metre square area. Then I'm going to cup in 2 or 3, just absolutely laced with worm and bed maggot. Let's see how we get on. A little bit small for a positive start, a nice first fish. So that's the end of the session. Ended up with about 50 to 60 pound on the new Evolved baits, Terre De Somme. Absolutely fantastic.